everyone, and welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. And I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad you could join me today. And if you're listening to the show on iTunes or podcast directory, then you can also come to blogtalkradio.com/CoachDeb, and you will find an archive of shows going back to 2008. There are many entrepreneurs who stop by to share their expertise and just talk about their experiences. So please make sure that you listen in and share this on social media. Tell friends to come and check it out. Lots of good stuff here. Also, Facebook.com/WomenEntrepreneurs is a fan page for the show. You can stop by. You can share information about your business. If you have one or ask questions, that's a good place for you to stop by. Also, the blog, womenentrepreneurssecrets.blogspot.com, is a blog for the show. Also have show guest bios on the blog and links to listen to the show there as well. And we also accept posts and advertising on the blog, and there's information there if you want to advertise on the show as well. So if you go there and you can read more information, and then you can click on the Contact Us button and send a query. If you're interested in being on the show, there's information there to download so you can find out what the details are. And also, if you are interested in posting, if you have articles of interest to women entrepreneurs or possibly an event coming up, then you can query as well, and I will send the guidelines for posting on the blog. So there's a lot of good stuff that you can do. So, just reach out. Also, if you have a book, business books, you've written, you think would be an interest, that's also something I like to feature as well. So if you go to the blog, you'll find out what information is there, and if there's something you want to participate in, I'd be glad to hear from you. Also, my website is DeborahABailey.com, and it's DeborahABailey.com, and that is right now my main blog that has all the information about me and my books and different things I'm doing. So that's a good place for you to stop by and, see my social media links and all that good stuff. So I'll suggest you stop by there as well. Okay, so what we're going to do now is get started, and I'm going to introduce today's guest. And Shahla Khan is a visionary author, speaker, and trainer on inclusive leadership. She founded Pink Boss, Blue Boss Consulting, discovering a dire need of inclusiveness, skills among top leaders of almost every industry in the world. With an academic background in international business, her expertise is in helping leaders, making people count by recognizing differences in gender, race, nationalities, and abilities that people bring along. She has recently been nominated for the STEM Influence Award 2015 for her latest book, Lean on What? 5 Things to Consider Before You Recruit, Retain Women in Engineering. Her philanthropy work includes a pilot project on human trafficking called One Life Foundation and a powerful campaign to criminalize marital rape in India called Make Love, Not Rape. So welcome, Shahla. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm really pleased to be on the show.
Well, this is really a lot of powerful work that you are doing. So, could you just share a little bit about, what brought you to do this work and what your journey has been as a woman entrepreneur?
Sure, I'd love to. Actually, this is something really personal to me. Normally, people keep their personal and professional life into different boxes. Mm-hmm. But for me, the story is really personal because, I was born and brought up in Saudi Arabia, and I was an Indian over there. So, again, I was not in the dominant group. I was a minority. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to India, which is obviously a big country with various religions and languages and cultures. But being a Muslim, I was a minority there again.
Mhm.
Further on, I moved to Europe for my studies, and always a minority here as well, being an Asian. So this, the feeling of being an imposter has, haunted me almost all my life. Whether it was studies, whether it was work, I always felt like an outsider, someone minority, someone who's not in the dominant group. And that, I think, is the first bias that we build is within ourselves regarding our own selves, I think. That we think that because we do not look like the leader or the boss, that means we are either less or we are not as competent or as confident as them. So these things started building up for a while in me while I was growing up. And then there came a time in my life when I was working as a lecturer at a great university, actually, in the Middle East. And ironically enough, the management was people from my own country who did this discrimination. They were not people from outside, either Middle Eastern or Western. They were people from my own country. And a very funny incident happened. Few weeks after the job started, there was a circular that came from the HR which said that the women professors had to wear either tight trousers or a skirt, which is something quite unusual because, professors don't have a dress code as such. No, it wasn't in the contract, right? So that troubled me a little bit, and I, very politely wrote back an email to my HR lady that I don't really understand and I have some concerns regarding this because obviously women, although it was an Indian university, there were women from many countries over there, right? So there were Middle Eastern women, there were Indian, and there were, various countries. So, whether it's a complete hijab or whether it's a trouser, it's not a problem. The problem is, why should the HR be telling women to follow a certain dress code where there isn't required any? I mean, you're a professor, right? So that troubled me a little bit, and, that was the, silent call for sexism at the workplace. And then the moment I raised my concerns, there was a blast, and I was called over by the management, and I had to listen to long lecture music and everything. And then I really could see that the problem was not the HR woman. The poor woman was only following the orders of the senior people. And the men were doing this, and they said that we want women to look professional and we want to attract guys, students, and things like that. So what the messages showed was like a very stark sexualization or objectification of women as professors that would attract a certain kind of look. And that really troubled me a lot. And with that, anyways, there was a case, and then I won, and then I came back to the UK, and there was a long story. But the thing is, that was the point, the breaking point in your life when you decide enough is enough, and when everything is clearly and appearing and see the difference between the right and the wrong. So that made me feel like, okay, all of my life I have been an imposter, a minority from whether it's my religion, whether it's my nationality, whether it's my thinking. There have been different things. But being a woman is the biggest difference I could feel, because at that situation, even other women would not come and say this is right or wrong because they had their own, lives hanging by a thread. And that made me realize that if there is a workplace that includes both men and women, and it's not just about your dress code, it goes way beyond that. It goes about simple things like your work timing shifts. Women with children who have their responsibilities, they can't do long-hour shifts. So what is your employer going to do about that? Fire you and hire someone with more time? That's not fair, is it?
Right.
So those are the kinds of things that really got me interested into this thing. And then I read more, I took courses, I discovered more, and then I found, okay, inclusive leadership is the answer to this kind of problem and environment in the workplace. So obviously inclusive leadership includes various aspects like your race, your gender, nationality, ethnic backgrounds, your abilities, different age groups. So it's actually providing equal opportunities to really all different kinds of minorities. And giving them an opportunity to bring their differences on the table instead of hiding their differences or instead of pretending that there are no differences.
Right.
But actually bringing their differences to the table and giving your team a very high performance productivity kind of work. So that's the whole idea behind inclusive work practices, showing respect for your individual's rights and confidentiality, encouraging people to think about their attitudes towards differences, and, disseminating information about trainings and learning programs, basically including everyone in every decision and everything that requires, a group work rather than few individuals, that kind of thing.
That's really very impressive, because I think that people who are on, what you would say on the outside, who are looking at it from a different point of view, can bring a different understanding to solving a problem that you would not see if you are, as we say, the dominant group that may not have to have that kind of insight.
Right.
You may not have to come at it a problem from a different direction because you don't have the same awareness.
Right. Exactly.
So I think that is very, very interesting, and also, obviously as a woman and a black woman in America, I can certainly understand your point of view without a doubt.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So it's an idea that everyone can bring their particular perspective to the table.
Right.
It's not like anyone should feel that, well, your view is not important because it's not, what we think you should do or feel. But, you're coming at it in a way, maybe we can learn something from how you're looking at this a little differently. So, I think that is something, this point of view is something that the corporations, companies, whatever, are really going to have to, embrace in order to move forward, I think, in this global economy. And I see, your book, you're talking about retaining women for engineering. When you wrote that book, did you have these feelings when you wrote them? Did you feel like, I really have to speak for the women who want to go into these fields that may find it, they may find that when they get into them, they're not as receptive? What prompted you to write that book?
Exactly, you're right. The thing is, this discrimination and bias towards women you can see in all fields in every country. There's not one or two that we can, pinpoint. But when we talk of STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, there is a very, very different statistics, and it's worse in STEM fields in comparison to other fields, because, there are certain fields that you can say are women-dominated, such as nursing or education. But even in the fields where women dominate, it's not the women who are equally or highly paid than men. And when you talk about STEM fields, the numbers are really shocking. For instance, 8% of professional engineers in the UK are female, compared to 51% of the population. So you can see the difference.
Wow.
And only 1 in 6 engineering graduates are women, while in the US, less than 1 in 5 engineering graduates are female. So less than 1 in 5. That's a terrible number, isn't it?
Yes.
And
Definitely.
when women do go far and become engineers and stand up in these fields, they still face so much gender stereotyping, and they are not believed and or seen as contributing equally. They are seen as something very light, or they are seen as something cute, which is actually not the case, is it?
Yes.
You speak with any kindergarten student and you ask them about scientists. They'll tell you 5 male scientist names, but they won't be able to tell you even one female scientist. And that's simply because our books are so biased. They don't talk about women who did great stuff.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
They just completely skip over the part. For instance, the invention of a washing machine, or the first ice cream maker ever made. Beer, invented by women. So we never get to talk about these things because women are, seen as, appearing on beauty pageants and home domestic calling kind of things.
Right.
We don't see women as doing those things.
Exactly.
So it's a funny world out there.
That's an excellent point. And I think that when so much of history, is changed, let's say what's taught to the young is changed, or certain things are kept out, and then as a young person grows who's one of these groups on the outside, then you start to think, well, there's nothing that anybody has done that looks like me, that is like me, that is of significance.
Right, of course. And people, when they see leaders or bosses who look like themselves and who are people who are there to mentor them, then they feel more like getting attracted to the field, and they feel more motivated to do things. For instance, there is a study firstly, there's a myth that women are women's worst enemies. They are so competitive. They don't let other women progress. But that's a huge myth, because researchers have now confirmed that when there are women bosses who are CEOs or CFOs in their companies, other women in their company not only progress, they also have more opportunities for networking, they get good mentorship, there's someone who understands their problems, and then it's easier for them to, make adjustments around the work, whether it's work timings, whether it's shift, whatever it is, whether it's having a simple crash at the workplace so that you don't have to worry about your little kids. Simple things like that. And those things make a big difference.
Yes, they do. They do. It's just I guess it's the mindset, it's the way that you feel, as you said, if women are competing against each other or made to think that that's a natural state, then that is what you're going to do or expect. You're not going to think about maybe asking someone to mentor you, or you're not going to think about mentoring someone else because you've been, you could say indoctrinated to believe something else.
Right. That's it.
Yeah. To believe a more negative way of looking at these other folks, who you could be helping and empowering, and they can be also giving back to you, but you don't see that because you've been told that this is not true.
That's true.
Yeah.
And women right now is a hot subject, and that's because they control about $20 trillion in annual consumer spending, and that's a big number, and that's supposed to rise up to $28 trillion in the next 5 years.
Yes.
So you see, women are the main shoppers when you go out there. Men, they go, they buy one thing and they come back, but women love window shopping. They buy more stuff. And they, have choice, they have variety, they like to play with colors. So it's the women who actually spend a lot more money. So if you have women customers, why wouldn't you want to have women designers or engineers or product implementation people so that they actually know what women like and prefer?
Right.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, that's so true. That's so true. And I think that the thing is, a lot of times, I know women, you don't tend to look at the power that you have because
Right.
other influences tell you that, well, you're just supposed to be worried about clothing, you're supposed to be worried about makeup,
Exactly.
you're supposed to be worried about this.
That's true. One thing that reminds me when you say about worrying about clothing is the thing about confidence gap.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You must have, read it hundreds of places and thousands of studies that women lack confidence, or women are not out there as much as men, or women doubt themselves a lot more. The thing is, you see, when little children grow up, they have the same amount of confidence. But when they turn into being men and women, there is a little gap in between, and that's not because women inherently have less confidence. Women rather are judged harsher and are told over and over again that you are less confident, which is why at some point they start believing in the myth that they are less confident, and they act accordingly.
Yes, I agree.
For instance, several studies from Stanford have confirmed that girls are equally good in maths, if not better, with boys. But when they grow up and they have been told constantly that girls are not good in maths or girls cannot do maths, they somehow imply the belief in their own subconscious mind, and they start believing that girls cannot be good in maths, and they don't do as well as they used to do, and or they lack interest there onwards. So the confidence thing between men and women is actually the difference between how society perceives the confidence of women rather than women themselves.
Yes. Yes.
If you put a person who has a lot of self-doubt in an environment where people are supportive, where people give proper feedback, where you get good appraisal, constructive feedback, of course you're going to flourish in that environment. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
But no matter how great you are, if you are constantly criticized and you're constantly under the spotlight, of course you're going to lack confidence at some point or another, wouldn't you?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I think, what the term that I've heard used for these are microaggressions that happen against people that come at you constantly, and I can speak from experience. And that can really damage the psyche if it keeps happening, and after a while people start to just crumble and start to feel like, well, I must deserve this, or it just attacks you at places that undermine you and undermine your confidence and undermine, what you feel you can accomplish. And, that's the thing that is so dangerous, because everyone has something they can contribute to the whole. And
that's perfectly true.
You're saying, well, this group of people here can't do that because I say so because I want to retain my power and maintain the status quo. Then you are losing so much talent and ability that could be helping to solve many of the problems and issues that we are facing right now. But if you're unable to open your mind to a different voice or someone having intelligence or whatever talent, skill they possess, because it doesn't look the way you think it should look, then...
That's so true. Yeah, you're right. There was another study for Fortune.com, and they were looking at the performance appraisals of men and women. There was one word that was constantly used for women, and that word was abrasive.
Wow.
Abrasive in the sense that your confidence is annoying.
Yes.
People find you annoying when you're confident.
Yes.
And this word was not used even once for men. And it was used 19 times on average for women. And also, when they compared the two performance appraisals of men and women, they found that men were given constructive feedback, whereas women were given personal feedback. something that attacks you personally and kills your confidence.
Yes.
That kind of feedback is given to women. How then you expect women to be confident in the workplace?
Exactly. And that's the problem, because you have a whole institution that's created, and people are just acting out their roles within that institution, and they themselves are bringing things to the table that they believe, their own beliefs that may be wrong, incredibly wrong and biased and bigoted, but then they bring that to the table, and then that affects everything else in the environment is affected by that.
That's correct. Yeah. And that's why I titled the book called Lean on What? Because when Sheryl Sandberg's book was out, Lean In, she's given great advice. Of course, women have to lean in. But this book is addressed toward organizations where women are employed, because women need a support structure to lean in.
Yes.
What do they lean on if there is no support structure? They will fall face first and then kicked out all of a sudden if they try to be confident, and the environment, the company, the employers are not ready for it.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. And I think from her point of view, maybe so, but, in the rank and file, you may be finding a wholly different environment, and people are, you may not be finding the same reception for you, so it's something else to consider, that everyone does not have that experience. We have a little over 3 minutes. Please let everyone know where they can find you, your websites and everything.
Sure. I have a website, Shahla Khan, that's my name, SHAHLAKHAN.me, M-E. And that's a personal one, and my business website is pinkbossblueboss.com, which I think it's pretty easy to spell, so I don't need to spell it out for you. And on the website, you can find my Facebook, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, and all other social media profiles. So it's really easy to reach me if anyone has a question or they would like to pick my brain about something, discuss something. Love that.
I can see why, because you have so much information and experience to share, and it's very encouraging, to have women out here such as you who are helping to make things better and for women to grow, because definitely in terms of women in business, it's only increasing. It's not going to get smaller. So the more encouragement and, mentoring that can be given, it's just going to be better for everyone. It's not just women, but that spreads out to communities and everywhere else. So do you think that, things can or are getting better? Do you see that, if you looked ahead a few years, what are your thoughts about, things in the state of women globally?
I think women are not taking it anymore. And those women who are discriminated against at work, there's only two ways. There's no middle ground. Either the companies change or the women quit. So when companies are changing, for instance, in Silicon Valley, they have accepted that there is a lot of bias, and companies like Google and Facebook are changing and they're increasing diversity and inclusion. So when companies are changing, it's good for the whole economy, not just for women. So they are doing that, and in companies where there are strict policies and women are still facing biases, women are quitting their jobs and going out and starting their own businesses. I mean, there are so many. The majority of small and medium business enterprises are now held by women, and they are doing really great, actually. There is a lot of improvement, and women are not, handling or choosing either one, that either I can be at home or I can have a work life. Now women are doing everything, and that's working very great, I think. So for future as well, I think as times are changing, things are changing. They may seem like it's a glacial speed because it's such a huge change. It's a mental change. We have been, programmed to think about things this way for millions of years, but I think there is change.
Well, that I'm glad to hear that, because I think your finger is on the pulse of what's going on, in the business world and just with your work, and just to hear that, I think that's very encouraging. But you're right. A lot of people really just want change right away, and that's not going to happen with attitudes that are shaped over so many so many centuries.
Of course. I mean, come on, millions of years. And besides, bias is such a thing that if you just go and start pointing out people, they're going to be defending themselves.
Yes.
They're not going to listen to what you're saying.
Yes.
Rather, they're just going to spend time defending themselves. So it requires a lot of, training and talking, communication, and making people see things differently. It requires a lot of that stuff, the workshop stuff that I do, actually.
Mhm. Well, that is fantastic, and we have run out of time. Maybe you'll get to return to the show and share more insights.
I'd love
this
to.
Is certainly something that could take more than 30 minutes for a conversation. But I really want to thank you for joining me, because this is a very important topic for everyone. Across the world. And I want to thank you so much for the work you do, and thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking to you, and I hope I can speak sometime again.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
I would definitely love that. Thank you. All right, everyone. I know you enjoyed this show. It's really a lot of food for thought listening in. So I hope that you will take this and think on it and apply it in your business, or if you're in a workplace, apply it there, and definitely share it with other people that you know to come and listen in, and visit Shahla's websites and check out her book, and see what you can do where you are, to really advance. I think women, and everyone in the workplace, because everyone can be lifted up when, we work together. So, once again, this is Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye now.